Hey, welcome. Thanks for joining us. I wanted to introduce you to Jacque Williams. Jacque is with Hickory Flat United Methodist Church, and me and him were introduced to each other last year, and I am excited to be a part of what they're doing. They're getting ready to launch 2 groups at Hickory Flat United Methodist, and really wanted to introduce Jacque and give Jacque an opportunity to join us because I thought it would be great for you who are looking at radical mentoring to be able to hear from a church who's kind of gone through what the pre-launch process is as they get ready to launch, just to help learn from lessons from Jacque as, hey, this is what we've experienced, this is what the process has been like, and just any suggestions he has as you begin to dig into what the mentoring process and launching this looks like. So thanks for joining us, Jacque. Thanks again for taking some time to join us, Jacque. I would love to know, and I know we've had the chance to talk together the past few months, and you guys are getting ready to launch. I'd love to know from your perspective, kind of what you see with your men in your church and just kind of men in general, and how you feel like radical mentoring is going to kind of serve what you guys were looking for.
Okay, be glad to. What we really got to look in, I guess it was from 2 fronts for me. It was one through my local church, but it was also through our United Methodist Conference of North Georgia. We both as a conference level, which our conference in North Georgia, we have about 800 United Methodist churches in North Georgia. But what we were seeing with the Methodist men's groups is they were declining rapidly as far as activity and just numbers. And then at our church, and specifically, same thing, declining, and especially with younger men. We found that our men's groups were probably averaging age of 60 to 65. And we were not getting young people to join into the groups. So both at a level of the North Georgia as a whole, but also as a level of our church specifically, we said we need to do something. We need to get more younger men involved. And we do know that younger men are very involved with their families, which is good. And they are going to our churches, but they're not actually joining men's groups. And so we heard about the radical mentoring, and I don't know exactly where I heard about it first. I think it might have been through our conference level, but still I went to the radical mentoring website, and very informative. I would tell anyone, if you want to know about radical mentoring, one of the first places to go is to their website, because it's very thorough. But then also, I don't know if I filled out something or called a phone number or what, but radical mentoring, and Trey, you got back with me very, very promptly, and we started a dialogue about what to do. Now, I will say one thing, I'm looking at it from 2 viewpoints. One, I am working to get a radical mentoring group, 1 or maybe 2 groups started at my local church. But then also through our conference, we're looking to better educate United Methodist churches throughout North Georgia about the radical mentoring program, because we do see this as a need throughout. Really, we're familiar with Methodist churches, but we hear the same about other denominations as well. So that was the background. One thing I will say on the local church level that was very good, I very early on talked with our senior pastor, and he was very supportive. I did a little homework on the website, talking with Trey, with you, and then talked to our senior pastor, and he was and is very supportive of the overall effort, and saw the need as well. He's been at our church going on 3 years now, but he saw the need to get younger men more active in the church. And so that's a long answer to your short question.
No, that's great. That's very helpful, very helpful. And yeah, I mean, and our goal is from our standpoint, we'd love to get get your feedback on this is, hey, it's something that needs to fit within the culture of the church, within the culture of the denomination, within the culture of kind of what you guys are doing. So, well, was there anything special you felt like you had to navigate to just see to make sure it was going to fit within what you guys are already doing?
Right. I wanted to say, well, one that I guess every church has a concern with is what's the cost going to be? So when I saw so much readily available materials online, that was good, and they were so thorough. I will point out, in my background, in my professional background, I have I'm actually a certified managerial coach, so I've done mentoring myself, but also done a lot of team building in my career, and so a lot of what I saw being utilized by radical mentoring was very much so of building a small group of men and a small team, but also as my role in the conference, I'm what they call the director of spiritual growth and spiritual development. And when I saw the curriculum, whether it be a 9-month curriculum or 12-month curriculum set up, it was so powerful on spiritual growth, both as an individual, but also as a group of men. And so I think those two factors really piqued my interest, got me excited about it. And then our senior pastor, when I talked to him, he felt the same way. So I'm really going down 2 avenues right now, because I'm going down at the local church. We're trying to get that one kicked off. Yep. It is challenging now during COVID, because I do believe, and I'll be glad, to talk with the radical mentoring folks, you, Trey, or others, but I really think there's a value to doing these sessions in person. I know we've gotten zoomed out the last 10 months or so, but I think to just build a bond between the men in the group is very advantageous for the men to get together once a month, or on the retreats that are on both ends of the program. So we're sort of in a holding pattern, so that's the local church. At the conference level, we're more going to try to educate people. Like I say, we have 800 churches in the conference, of which maybe 175 have active men's groups. So definitely for those 175, we want to give them some information. And we do know that there's a couple churches already, Methodist churches, that are already utilizing the program. So we definitely want to learn from them as well. So that's where we are today. Yes.
That's great, and know you're getting close, and kind of a little bit of a holding pattern with this season. But the one question, we have a lot of folks who will come in and watch this, whether they're creating accounts, kind of kicking the tires a little bit, but kind of looking back and knowing you're close to launching. Are there some words of wisdom, or just looking back on kind of what this process of launching looks like, or partnership looks like? Any words of wisdom you would share for folks that are just now looking at it?
Be glad to. In fact, one thing we have done, we have gone through the training for our mentors at our church, our local church. So we do have 6 mentors. And during that time, we had some conversations. And one thing I would definitely recommend to anyone, any church looking to do this, get your senior pastor involved. Make sure he or she are supportive of this effort. So that was one of the first things I did. And I think it worked out well. Another thing is, don't try to rush into it, but get your mentors lined out. And then, again, this is an unusual circumstance because of the COVID-19. So I don't know that any timeline I'm going to say is going to make any sense. But don't feel like you're rushed. And maybe even if you just do one to start with, one group, and then go to more. One thing we chose as a local church is to also have co-mentors, 2 mentors. We figured the first time coming out of the chute, it would be best to have 2 mentors involved. So we are going to go the co-mentor route. And so that, And then to utilize, again, I'll say the website, but to utilize the materials on there, to read those materials. There's a lot you can do yourself by just reading the materials. And then one thing I did is part of the program is you read a book each month. And so I went over that reading list that Radical Mentoring had supplied with our senior pastor. And he was he was very excited about several of the books that are in there. And he said some of them are light reading and some of them are pretty heavy reading. So it just depends. But so I think that was a positive, and really just to trust the process that Radical Mentoring has already worked out through the years, but you still have to make it to your church as well. So there may be aspects that, you know, Radical Mentoring recommends, but I would also say make sure your mentors are together, your senior pastor is together on how you're approaching the whole thing.
That's great. That's well. Hey, thanks again for taking a few minutes and just speaking to some of the folks who are kind of kicking the tires a little bit and checking things out, and especially as they're looking to launch, kind of what expectations are. So, you know, we certainly appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, I'd say the hardest thing for me is I started this process both at the macro level and at the single church level right about the beginning of COVID.
Yeah.
So I'm obviously very anxious right now because I want it to go, but I also want it to be successful. And so I would just tell people to be patient as well. I mean, just none of us have control over the COVID, but we can definitely get our ducks in the road. And I think that's one reason we went ahead and trained our mentors, because that was a smaller group that we could handle safely. And so we got that ready. And they're just waiting for the next step. So, yep, that would be my summation.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. We believe that whether it's a COVID season or not, is that, hey, there's never a need to rush a launch. Is that, hey, you get one chance of the launch, and so, hey, there's never a need to rush. It's one of those things that makes sure you feel like you got everything going the way you need to, got all your ducks in a row, and in that way, you know, especially, and I think you have it right on that first season. It's kind of weighing that first season, hey, because you're going to learn a lot in that first season throughout that first season, which is really going to set you up for seasons to come. So,
and one thing I think just too, as far as the overall aspect of young men in the church, I do see that as a system-wide issue, and I do believe this mentoring program, this Radical Mentoring, for the individual's spiritual growth will be very valuable, and so I see a need out there. I see a need at our local church, but also in talking to people that go to other churches. Yep. It seems to be across the board to get young men active in church. And I do remember too, when I came along, when I was a young man, I was fortunate enough to have a lot of mentors in my life, one, my dad, but again, this is sort of a different role than what your dad is. But also just at work, in my workplace, but also at my church place, I was fortunate to have gentlemen of more seasoned, more experience to help me along. And to me, this is a program, a plan that utilizes that type of concept on I shouldn't say regimented, but on a structured basis in a positive way to bring young men along. So, you know, I think it's got a great foundation, and I would just urge people to investigate it and to call people. And Trey, I know you can give people this information. Call other people who have already done it in their churches and talk to them, because we've definitely gotten a lot of support from a couple churches in our conference who are already doing it. So I would say contact them as well.
Love it. Love it. Awesome. Well, hey, appreciate you spending a few minutes with us and giving us some of our churches some good advice moving forward. And we're excited about kind of the next chapter for you guys and the next chapter for just some of the Methodist churches here in North Georgia.
Well, you're quite welcome, and just thank you to Radical Mentoring and to you, Trey, for all that y'all have done so far in our efforts here.
Awesome. Thanks, Jack.
All right, have a good day.